To start, here is a bit of context to help things more easier to understand. My name is Jason, and I was born in 1990. I have been raised and currently reside in Jamaica, a small island in the Caribbean. From as far back as I can remember, I have had the ability to see entities if they reside or haunt the particular place I visit or live. My parents have some idea of my ability, but I don't tell them everything because they worry too much about me as it is. The first significant experience I had, other than seeing the occasional spirit here and there, was when I was about 13 or 14 years old. I was in high school and lived with my parents and younger brother. One Friday evening in June 2003 or 2004, I was allowed to spend the night at my grandparents' house. I loved staying with them because they would give me anything I asked for, like ice cream or candy. And they didn't dictate a bedtime. It was a normal night. I watched TV for hours and hours, then decided I would play some games on my Game Boy Advance. I was doing just that in my room from 10:30 PM. Now, from about May until September in Jamaica is seriously hot. Like 34 degrees Celsius in the days and 30 at night. Inside the house is even hotter, and we have no air conditioning. I was playing my game at about 1:30 AM, and the room went from seriously hot to freezing in almost an instant. My only thought was, oh shit, something's happening. I started hearing footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. So I called out to see if it was my grandparents, and I saw them sleeping. I was going back to my room when I heard the footsteps get heavier and louder. I jumped myself into bed and hid under my covers. Not 10 seconds later, my closed bedroom door opens by itself, and in walks a man. He was about 6 feet 6 inches or taller, and had on a brown suit, brown dress shoes, and a matching brimmed hat. The thing is, he wasn't a person really. He was sort of see-through, and his face, it was normal 1 second, and the next it would be contorted and twisted in unnatural ways. His eyes were the darkest black. He noticed me as I noticed him, and he started to walk towards the side of my bed. Now, at this point I wasn't really religious, but my dad was. He had taught me that if I was ever afraid, to recite this palm. I think it was Palm 93. It was all I could think to do, and he was obviously repulsed, but also becoming enraged. His eyes glowed with a dark fire, and his mouth turned into an impossibly wide frown to where you could see jagged, pointed, dirty, horrid teeth, if you could even call them that. They looked like rows of shark's teeth, only longer and uneven. As I prayed the palm, he backed away inch by inch. The lights in my room flicked on, and he was just gone. It was my grandmother. She had heard me and came in to see what all the noise was about. I had told her everything, and we got the house blessed by a person from our church. This was by no means my only encounter with the paranormal. This one was mild compared to the other experiences I've had.
I just got this job a little over a week ago, and I've already quit. The first few days were completely normal, and I was actually enjoying picking up calls to help people. But 2 days ago, I arrived to my shift, and to my surprise, there was an absence of calls on my line. Almost complete silence. Then the phone rang, and I rushed only to get this. I know I shouldn't be sharing this transcript, but I don't know what to do anymore. 911, what's your emergency?
Hello?
Yes, hello, you've reached 911. What's your emergency?
I, did something.
Okay, do you want to tell me what you did? You sound young. How old are you?
I'm 6 years old.
Okay, sweetie, now what happened?
My mommy, she's not moving.
Don't worry, sweetie, I'll send help. Do you know your address?
It's 933, Hillside Avenue.
Look at you, such a smart little girl. I'll send someone. Do you know why your mommy's not moving?
No, I won't tell you. It's a secret.
Come on now, sweetie. I won't be able to help you if you don't fill me in.
Should I tell her? I know, mister. I know. I promise not to tell anyone.
Mister, are you with someone right now? Is it your daddy?
No, nice lady. He's not my daddy. I haven't seen him in weeks.
Then who is he? Are you in trouble?
He's not a bad guy. Isn't that right, mister?
Can you put him on the phone for me?
Yup. Tick-tock goes the clock.
The call ends. Shit. Come on, pick up.
Hello?
Are you safe?
Hello? I can't hear you. You can't say that. Shut up.
Sweetie, please talk to me. Who is that with you? At this point, I could hear the police break down the door.
Sir, put the knife down.
Something hits the wall. Shots were fired. I heard someone hit the ground. Oh my God.
Why would you do that? The policeman just wanted to help. Yes, I get it, but I did what you asked already.
Hello? Are you there? What did you do?
I put my mommy to sleep. The nice man told me to.
Please stay away from that man. Help will arrive.
Her slut of a mother sold her to me. She paid the price and now I take what's mine.
Wait! I tried to call back after this, but the number was non-existent. Police arrived at the house and did not find any traces of the little girl or the man. The mother, she was disemboweled. The little girl couldn't have done that, right? How the fuck was she so calm?
I used to work as a 911 operator in a relatively large metro area. One night, at about 3 AM, I answered a call from an elderly lady who said she didn't feel too good. I tried to get more information about what was wrong. Chest pain, trouble breathing, headache, is she diabetic, all that kind of stuff. She gave me her address and phone number and said no one else was home, but the front door was unlocked. I toned the call out as general illness and kept trying to get more details. No matter what else I asked about what was wrong, all she would say is, "I just don't feel good. Can you send someone to help me?" After a few minutes she said, "I'm going to put the phone down for a minute. I need to go to the bathroom." I tried to get her to stay on the line with me. Told her she can do whatever she needs to get ready, but I'd like to be able to stay in contact in case there's a problem. She said, "I'm going to put the phone down. I'll just be a minute." And that was it. I stayed on the line and asked her every so often, but got no reply. A couple of minutes passed. Then the fire department called on scene, so I just disconnected, and I didn't think about it much. I told them the caller advised the front door was unlocked and she was in the bathroom. A couple of more minutes and one of the firefighters called over the air with a weird tone and said, "Dispatch, how exactly was this call received?" I told them the call was first party from the patient's home phone approximately 8 minutes ago. He didn't respond over the air, but called the desk from his cell phone, which usually only happens when something weird is going on that they don't want to broadcast, since anyone can listen to the radios. On the phone he said, "Are you sure this wasn't a third party call from a family member or something?" I said, "Negative. Caller advised, I don't feel good," and said no one else was home. So to the best of my knowledge, the caller is the patient. "Have you made contact?" He said, "Yeah. She was in the bathroom like you said, but she's probably been dead for about 12 hours. We're gonna need a deputy here." Afterwards we pulled the tapes of the radio and the phone calls and checked the timestamps, address, phone number. I went over everything a few times to see if I missed something. I called them back in the morning after the shift to see if they had any more information, but they were just as weirded out as we were. The phone was still in the living room, and the patient was dead in the bathroom.
First, some background on me, as to establish some basic human credibility before I recount the events that nearly ruined me. I'm a 20-year-old male college student studying political science at California State Long Beach. I am also a member of a fraternity on campus. I don't do drugs, and during the course of these events, I only used marijuana once. To be clear, I do not give a fuck if you don't believe me, and I will not attempt to convince you beyond this account of the events. Mid-January 2011, my best friend Ryan and I looked to move out of the fraternity house. We found an apartment for rent in our price range, $1,200 for a 2-bedroom in downtown Long Beach, so we followed up and made it happen. The day after we moved in, something strange happened. I went to take my second shower since moving in, and 5 minutes into it, I was greeted by my neighbor from downstairs, complaining that massive amounts of water were leaking into her unit from ours. I checked the water heater and found water gushing from an emergency release valve on the top, which is never supposed to be opened. A few weeks later, late February, I came home from my crappy job at the bookstore to find my roommate locked out on our second-story balcony. He knocks on the glass door and I let him in. I think it's hilarious and ask him how long he was locked out for. Turns out he was locked out for 6 hours because his right arm was in a split from shoulder surgery. He wasn't able to climb down. He also didn't have his cell phone. He told me that he swore the door was unlocked when he went out for a cigarette. We agreed it was kind of strange, but laughed about him being stuck out there for 6 hours. A few days later, Ryan offers me a bowl to celebrate our new lives away from the frat house. I don't often smoke pot, but I decided it would be fun. I go to bed 45 minutes later, and out of nowhere, I am the most terrified I have ever been in my life. I felt strange, and it was not from the pot. I had the overwhelming feeling that there was some manifestation of negative energy in my room. I was hearing thoughts that were not mine, and they were not pleasant. My closed door was bouncing back and forth, so I closed my door. It continued. I frantically grabbed my phone from the windowsill to text Ryan in the next room. My phone shows that there is one new text message, so I click the message box, but there is no new text message. Convenient time for an iPhone glitch, right? Ryan tells me that I need to calm down and go to bed. Here's the text message conversation from that night. The next morning I wake up and convince myself that it was the result of some bad weed and go about my day. A few weeks later, I am at work and get a text from Ryan saying that he's locked out again. So I leave work early to get home and let him in. When I got home and let him in, he was a little freaked out. He told me that this time he left the door cracked open a few inches, and then it slammed shut on its own and latched right after. We were both pretty disturbed, but for the next few weeks, we went about our lives. On March 15th, 2011, I went home after my classes and discovered Ryan's room completely torn apart. It looked like the place had been ransacked. There were clothes everywhere, items knocked over. His heavy wooden desk had been completely knocked over, and the pencil tray had been pulled all the way out and dumped. It looked like a fucking tornado came through. I look through the glass door and see Ryan locked out on the balcony, and he starts banging on the glass. "Chris, let me in, man. Hurry up and let me the fuck in." I open the door for him, and the first thing he says to me is, "Bro, all of this shit happened while I was out there. I fucking watched as my room was completely torn apart by some invisible force for a half an hour." He swears that he went out for a smoke, and this time he left the door halfway open. He hears the door begin sliding shut on its own, so he grabs it as quick as he can and catches it before it closes. But the force of the door was too strong and actually pulled him with it. Ryan swears that as he smoked his way through a full pack of cigarettes, he watched as his room was ransacked by some invisible force. I was freaked the fuck out and wanted nothing more than to get the fuck out of there and never go back. I told Ryan that I thought we should both get out of the apartment for a while, but he just wanted to clean his room and ignore it. Here is the conversation for that day. I couch surfed for about a week before regaining the courage to go back and face this thing. The weeks and months that followed were among the worst of my life. Any peace of mind that I had in my own bedroom was lost. When I wanted to fall asleep, strange things would start happening. My closed door would start shaking back and forth, and occasionally I would hear a violent bang on the door. It got to the point where I would put my shoes up against the door to stop it from banging back and forth. Then one morning I woke up and found that one of those shoes had been moved to the other side of the room. Ryan would go home to San Diego on the weekends, which meant that I was often there alone. I would often hear footsteps on my carpet next to me as I tried to fall asleep, and I would sense an overwhelming amount of negative energy. In short, when it was around our apartment, I could feel it. I would get goosebumps, and out of nowhere I could just sense it. It was a very strange sensation, and I'm afraid I cannot quite effectively describe it to you. My sleeping habits deteriorated and my grades began to drop like stones. We didn't know how to deal with it, so we started to ignore it, but I can tell you that it is very difficult to ignore. I found that it was nearly impossible for me to fall asleep before 2 a.m. No matter how hard I tried, something would always keep me up. The growling sound was the worst. It was low-pitched and extremely creepy. For a while, I thought it was an airplane, but after going outside and not being able to hear the sound, I concluded that the source was indeed inside the apartment. I'm having trouble piecing the rest of the events in order, so I will just list some of the creepy shit that happened. During the day in mid-April, Ryan's girlfriend Taylor came over. We were trying to put a movie in the Xbox when the power went out. To our surprise, the power outage was restricted to our 2 bedrooms and not the rest of the apartment. Strange. We decided to play Uno on the carpet in the main room. While playing, all 3 of us heard the sound of something sliding across our tile countertop in the kitchen. I go to investigate and find that it was their bottle of champagne. A few weeks ago, days before we broke our lease and moved out, I was home alone again and in my room on Reddit. I look across the room at my MacBook charger and notice that it was moving on its own, back and forth and making strange shapes like it was alive. I left the room and went into the kitchen. I opened the cupboard and discovered that my unopened box of Honey Bunches of Oats had been torn open and the bag had been pulled out in a very strange angle. I decided to leave and spend the night at the fraternity house. I have many more accounts of strange events that occurred while living there, and I may post some of them in the comments section. Hey guys, thank you all for watching my video, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Nightmare Army. I'm always looking for new soldiers in my Nightmare Nation. So I want to give a big thank you to NathanDuceTv for joining me on my Friday video. Thank you so much, man, and if you guys haven't, please check out his channel. He's awesome. And guys, I do want to apologize for certain parts of the audio in the last story for being somewhat cut. I don't know if you guys really noticed it, but I did, of course, because I'm kind of anal with that shit. But anyways, I just want to apologize for that if at certain points the audio kind of cuts a little bit. But anyways, guys, on a more lighter note, how did everybody's Friday go? Mine went pretty good, but I haven't seen The Conjuring 2 yet, and I absolutely really want to see it. In like the worst way. I fell in love with the first Conjuring movie that came out way back when, and I really love that movie. That's honestly my favorite horror movie, probably of all time. It's definitely in the top 5, and I am very picky when it comes to horror movies. I don't really scare that easily, but just, when I heard that they were making a Conjuring 2, and then I heard that it was actually pretty damn good, I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to go see it. But if any of you have seen it, please let me know what you guys thought about it down below, because I really, really want to see it. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, and just remember, the best ideas always come out of nightmares.